All right, Drew.
Jesus, this poor guy.
I am so sorry.
That was awesome.
Okay. Had to. It was a timely thing. It wasn't though. I'm a bad podcaster.
You're just being respectful of her time.
So your podcast Conceit, which is sincere, but I have to say, like, also doubles as like genius comedy. I mean, it like there's something about you that kind of, in a sublime way, rises above the dichotomy of, is he doing a bit or is he for real? You're kind of both. You know how funny it is that you're for real about the fact that your dulcet tones, your way of speaking, you have resigned yourself instead of in a world where everyone's trying to distinguish themselves and entertain. You were like, you know what? Come to me when you want to go to sleep.
Yeah. Like I mean, like I think it's, even as a person that makes it, like I look at it like, oh, I'm putting all this work into something that no one listens, and I'm like a really anxious, obsessive person, so I'm constantly worrying about it, like, oh, this isn't good enough, blah, blah. And then I'm like, holy shit, like, if someone, like an outsider was watching this, they'd be like, dude, you're insane. Like, and some listeners even email me, they're like, why don't you just read from the phone book? Why do you spend so much time working on it? Like, and I'm like, well, I'm convinced that's what puts you to sleep. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, that's and that's there was an article in the New Yorker about your podcast that talked about that insomnia is not something that people have conquered. It's a lot like the common cold. It is people think it's so simple, but it persists because doctors can't really get around it, because anything a doctor would prescribe to you, it becomes part of this labyrinth of anxiety that keeps people awake. You yourself suffer from insomnia, correct?
Yeah. Like, I mean, the podcast, it was funny because last Sunday you were kind of talking about Sunday nights and you were having a shitty night and you're like, oh, like, and for me, that's where the podcast came out of, was like, I had the terrible time at school, and I would, like, when Sundays were coming, I would not be able to sleep, and I'd be, like, all worried. And I was like, oh, I told my parents, and they're like, drink some milk, or like, whatever. Like, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. I like spend the whole night worrying and moving, and they're like, oh, and then I started listening to Dr. Demento, like Weird Al and stuff, and it never put me to sleep, but it like took my mind off of like lying there and worrying and thinking about going to school the next day and getting in trouble and stuff. And yeah, I don't think like pills can work for some people. Like, there's different things that work for different people, but I think like a lot of people want a bedtime story. And it's gotta be boring.
Now, what do you do exactly? What makes you think that you're so narcotic that you can put people to sleep by talking? Like, what is it about you that? Also, is it verifiable that people have said, "Thank you, you knocked me right out"?
Yeah, and your sponsors are mattresses and stuff.
Yeah.
He has. I think you have about as many listeners, or maybe more than us. I mean, he's very humble and self-effacing.
New Yorker never wrote shit about Harmontown.
But the New Yorker piece on you, which was June 2016, but I copied and pasted this. It said, the ideal bedtime story, according to Nitun Verma, a national spokesperson for the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. So the ideal bedtime story is one that doesn't build upon itself, like a movie with a lot of parallel stories that don't connect at the end, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like the children's books that our parents would sit with us, they do have a kind of like meandering quality. They don't exactly like... They're not Die Hard. They don't like...
Yeah.
So like the longer you're listening, the bigger the build is. Oh my God, Hans Gruber's gonna get it. It's like, oh, and then this, and then the...
My mother would always read Beowulf to me right before
But when you first started doing the podcast, how many episodes have you done? Because you do about 3 a week.
Yeah, like I've done like 450, like more than 450.
How long have you been at it? Since
like
what year?
3 years, so...
So he's been doing it as less time than we've been doing this podcast, and has twice. Well, this, of course, the math would work out, Dan. If you stacked his podcasts on top of ours, there'd be 3 times as many, because he does them 3 times a week. If the moon was 1 from the Earth, he'd have hit it 3 times. Thanks, Dan. Did you originally start doing it? I didn't like go back to the beginning. Did you start trying to just straight up tell bedtime stories?
I like was like curious. Like I was like, man, like I don't know. I like listening to podcasts and comedy podcasts and stuff, and I was like, man, why? And this isn't like a knock on like guided meditations or nature sounds, but it was always like something that like I'm an irritable person, so it would irritate me, or the nature noises would get. I'd be like, wow, and I was like, why isn't there something that's a little bit weird, but that has a bedtime story?
There's also like a factor because you're such a smart, funny guy. The thing is, like, I'm sure. Like nature, those tapes, like the people that tend to delve into that area, they don't have, like, God bless them, but they're not, like, there's funny things that can happen that they don't acknowledge. Like,
they're not lying there, like, thinking about, like, where are the bugs crawling around? Like, where the hell is this rain?
Like Schraub, my friend, but he's a friend now at this point.
It's more of he's kind of a common law
life
husband.
partner. He tried to do, like, he had a therapist that would make his own tape. He would give him tapes and sell them to him. This just happens at this point in the show. Don't worry about it. But one of the things I remember Schraub describing to me, oh yeah, I'm listening to this tape and this guy's like talking to me about, you're going to be less intimidated in public. He's issuing these commands, but then like clearly like a screen door opens and some woman comes home with groceries and like there's these random sounds that happen. People that put themselves in charge of your spirit and your essence, like the danger there is that the drawstring is pulled the bowstring is drawn so tight that the slightest bit of humanity like shoots an arrow across the room is very distracting. You're from the outset. The first episode that I listened to you just had decided that you wanted to talk about. Well, you didn't decide. You talked about crackers for 30 minutes. 30 hardcore like just the labyrinth of your mind.
See, I don't think I would fall asleep to that. I think I'd want to know.
No,
all about
there's a lot to think about. Like you got isn't there a cracker industry? I mean, that's what I was thinking about. Like you got the green box crackers, you got the red box crackers, like. What other ones are there?
You have a whole national biscuit company.
Crackers.
You got the Nabisco.
Yeah. But what? You
got all of Trump's followers.
I was. It brought me to the edge of my consciousness listening to the cracker thing, and then what you really got into was that you'd become obsessed with Rick Moranis, and you wanted to talk, and I would drift in and out of consciousness, and when I would drift back into consciousness, you were still in what apparently was I guess a fantasy improv that was a conversation between you and Rick Moranis. Just for what seemingly it seems like it's 6 hours. Like the podcasts are about 2 hours long, but it seems like that's the beautiful thing is like we use ocean waves and howler monkeys and things.
Now, Drew, for somebody who I don't suffer from insomnia, I sleep pretty well. Is this something that would put anyone to sleep, or is it a certain mindset that goes into this thinking like I need this particularly to knock me out?
Like you would know pretty quick. Like the people that it won't put to sleep hate me. Like and they like email me. They're like, I fucking hate your voice. Like so it's like pretty like because it is like Dan was saying like some people certain things work for. They like want to be led on this journey to find the magical box within their soul or whatever. But that's just not me. Like I want something that's goofy.
Do you ever slip in any weird subliminal stuff? Like, just like
I've tried. Like, I tried a few times. Yeah. Like, and no one. Like, the sad thing was, no one emailed me. Like, I was like, okay, my little ninjas. Like, I was pretending I was giving like a seminar on profiting from boredom or something, and then I was like, okay, now you're going to kill it. You know, I didn't say kill
right.
though. Like,
How did you describe yourself when you were in the episode you just did? That if people listen right now to the latest episode, you talk about you're nervous coming on the podcast, and you try to do my story circle model with the thing. It makes me feel like I ruined your podcast because you're talking about my bullshit all night, and it's like But it was also brilliant. I mean,
I'm sure lots of people fell asleep to that, Dan.
Yeah, no, I don't flatter myself that way. But you taught in that episode. You said sometimes you're explaining each week, each podcast episode. You're explaining to people who might be new. You're going like, you're telling them how to categorize you, and this episode, you said something like, "I'm just that friend of yours that you think, I'm your friend that you're allowed to think is a doofus." What did you say? Like
something like that. Like I mean, that's like kind of the conceit of the podcast is like, I mean, via podcast, like I'm coming over to your house, but you have no commitment to like listen to me or humor me or offer me a drink. I mean, like almost like a super stoned person that won't stop talking, but instead of like getting on your nerves, you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna lie here and fall asleep," and they're like, "Totally, I don't care at all." Like, that's assault. Let me tell you about the time I showed up at Rick Moranis' house and tried to pitch him to get back.
I might have mentioned this a long time ago in Harmontown, but I was on a flight, and Alec Baldwin, this is a long time ago, like pre-30 Rock, was sitting across the aisle from me, and he was sitting next to a woman who I don't think he knew, and I had the Bose like noise canceling headset on, so I could just barely hear him, and it was the greatest thing to fall asleep to. He was like, when I was 6, I had this dog. This dog ran away. And he told the story about this dog that ran away. I was like, I just drifted beautifully off to sleep. Like, I want Alec Baldwin just to come over and just lay next to me and whisper.
Yeah, like I'm like kind of like the boring, crappy version of Alec Baldwin. but like also weirder and like I try to stay calm. I think that's another thing about the podcast is like I tend to be really anxious and spastic, but like to do the show, I've got to be like, I got to calm down and be like, well, one, I can't believe Mrs. LaRusso listens to my freaking podcast. But like even this would be like, okay, there was just a woman on stage, and it's clear to me she's so sick of her son's haunted house that she's trying to set up Dan. And I was pitching her one night, and she came out of the house. She checked Timur's door to see if Timur was asleep. When you think about Timur, you're like, what does he have on his walls? Like, what posters does he have? And and then I think about myself, and I'm like, man, like I wish I didn't have that. I could have never made a haunted house. Like I think I started making. So that's kind of the podcast.
So it's all free association. Do you prepare anything, or you just totally riff and just go with the flow?
So I do one free association one every week. Then I do one that's like soft scripted, like outlined with dialogue. And then I do one on like TV shows. So right now I've been watching, like there's a Colombian version of Breaking Bad. It's called Metastasis. And it's awesome. It's like a shot-for-shot remake, well, almost shot-for-shot. So, and this is how ill I am. It's called Metastasis. It's
like tumors.
Yeah, because Walter White.
I never saw it, sorry. One day.
They have to focus more on the cancer than the drugs in this version because it's not. Some things are more shocking than others.
But yeah, like so I'll watch the Colombian version of Breaking Bad, then I'll watch Breaking Bad. I'll take a ton of notes, and then I'll just be like, it's Walter Blanco, so I'll be like, Walter Blanco.
Blanco.
But they left Walter
and Saul Bueno.
Saul Bueno.
Yeah. It is really good. Like the acting, it's not like a joke. Like it made me appreciate Breaking Bad so much more.
What is it that draws you to it? Because I think you said you're actually kind of teaching yourself Spanish or brushing up on your Spanish with it. Or I've watched 61 episodes. I probably like twice, and I probably still know the same words when I failed out of Spanish in high school. But what is drawing you to that? Because when I hear about that, I think, okay, I'd like to watch a 5-minute clip of that. But so you're hooked on a thing that you already know the story, and you're.
Well, he said he's a bit obsessive about.
Yeah, I think it's like, well, one, it's like from making anything every single week, it's like I got to watch it every week. So like people are like, oh, why don't you do something like the Smurfs or something? And I'm like, well, I'd lose my mind. Like I could watch 2 weeks of the Smurfs, but Breaking Bad is a great show, and then it's just interesting watching like a kind of Colombian interpretation.
All right, so it's always giving you something to because it's lateral. I think I get that now. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is maybe something that you wouldn't do at all if you didn't have this podcast to contend with.
Exactly,
you're actually using it to like kind of charge a battery.
Yeah, because like when you're watching something and then you like kind of like start playing around on your phone or whatever, like this, like I have to be engaged, and I don't know. I guess like because it's like pointlessly challenging. I don't know, but what about that drives me? But it's like almost like I was like, I'm not going to watch 62. I'm going to watch 62 episodes of this Colombian Breaking Bad. But then it's like I have to find material in it. So it's like I'm mining it. I'm watching their shirts and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's boring. I could talk about a shirt for 8 minutes. Like, no problem.
So we've got a mind capable of that, and we've got somebody who also in the episode, not to spoil it, but you almost inexplicably focus in you trying to decode my story model. You choose to use this amazing song from A Chorus Line, the musical. Why is that your favorite song? Why are
Which song?
I Feel Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like just because...
Or just
every
nothing.
day
I'm sorry,
for
nothing.
a week, I would try. Yeah, it's a good song.
Well, like it just like... I think like it goes back to like why do certain people can't sleep, like overthinking people or people that obsess about stuff. And it's like that song does have some truth in it. And then it has this like feeling for me. It's like, oh wait, I'm dead inside.
Right.
Like so like I'm like when I hear the song, I think about that like, and I like it better because I'm like, okay, she's singing about this surface thing, and then there's this whole other thing going on within the story of the song, and then there's like the truth behind it, like
Right.
like just whatever happened out here on the stage with the freaking haunted house. It's like like you could start to unpack that. It's like. And I mean, the fact that you text with your neighbor, that's great.
She texts with me, and I respond every time. I said, no, don't be sad. She'll be fine.
She'll be back next week.
But I'm so intrigued by that because I just
Dan, real quick. This might be pricky of me to say this. How much 0 to 100%? Do you think that she engaged you in that text conversation because she thought it might parlay into being back up here?
I think
0%.
I think 0. I think 0% at the beginning, and then 10% all the way through, just like me. I don't know. I was like annoyed.
I like her.
And
I'm not. I don't mean that to disparage her in any way. I was like, but like, is there a part of her like does she love being up here so much that like she engages with you?
I think, let's not be addicted to dichotomy. I mean, what are we learning with this election? Like if we follow the path of good person, bad person long enough, we're gonna end up in a fucking desert where we're gonna lose our fucking minds because like the truth is like we're all just different kinds of people, and I just is she a good neighbor? Is she a bad neighbor? Am I a bad neighbor? Am I a bad person? Like, should I let more light into my life? Should I read her screenplay? Is she an attention whore? Is fame bad? Is everything? It's like these questions. My epiphany lately in therapy and just in thinking about it and driving to work with Spencer every day is just like dichotomy is like a crutch. Like dichotomy is laziness, is ideological laziness. Like we've talked about this. Like the idea that things are one thing or the other is kind of like it's an addiction and it's a comfort zone, and it's like who knows?
I'm not saying that it's binary, that she is all one or all the other. But
I'm not trying to high road you. Also, that sounds like I sound like I'm a little high flown saying that in answer to your thing. But I also just I'm like, yeah, look, I don't know. She's my neighbor Beth. She's like a character. I don't know. You know,
Joey. Let's check back in with you. Did you get your tarot cards?
Joey.
Oh shit. What card is that?
Because Joey, to his credit, has sat there in graveyard silence the entire time and just totally digging it.
I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, shit.
I love you, Joey.
So this is for you. You are the King of Cups. I don't know the individual's name, but if anyone could find out who was the first person to use ether to anesthetize therapeutically, that is who his past life was.
Isn't Dan the King of Cups?
I'm in the Knight of Cups.
Oh.
That's like my favorite Bugs Bunny routine, too, so the ether one. So.
No, you're saying that he's the reincarnation of the person that first used ether to anesthetize.
That's right.
Really?
Didn't that guy cut his leg
How does that
open?
come to you? Is that some sort of divinic thing that happens?
Let's see.
Oh, we have a Google search.
Perfect.
God, our fans are awesome.
Okay.
They would never steal a sign.
So
Sorry, yeah, but I don't mean to kiss your ass, but you did notice in that text conversation I was kind of sticking up for you guys.
Human teeth and chloroform. Yes.
Human teeth and chloroform.
It says that William Thomas Green Morton, who lived from August 9th, 1819 to July 15th, 1868, was an American dentist who first publicly demonstrated the use of inhaled ether as a surgical anesthetic.
How'd he die?
1846.
He died on an ether bench.
I think he went on ether and cut his leg open and bled to death.
Oh, really?
That's why I asked. Maybe that's chloroform.
That's my favorite scene in Fear and Loathing in the book by Hunter S. Thompson, where he just pours ether on the floorboard of his car in the convertible, so it just wafts up as they're driving. And he goes into Circus and loses his fucking shit. That's how you do it.
Well, sorry. So, back diving into it's
9/11. It's the most wonderful time of the day when the planes are all falling and buildings are... Don't fucking do that. You cheer for 9/11 every week.
When that song on paper, I'm only familiar with the movie, but that song, the lyrics to that song on paper, make me think that is the story of somebody who is realizing that the dichotomy of feeling versus not feeling is a flawed dichotomy, and that she is escaping it and realizing that she can cry in the end. Like, what makes her cry is the fact that she is numb. What makes her cry is her alienation. It's like, and that is not foreign to me. And I felt like you were kind of like,
yeah, that song is the idea that, like, don't tell me to lie. Like, don't tell me that I know what I'm an ice cream cone. Like if you make me pretend to be an ice cream cone, I feel nothing. And then when he died, she feels nothing.
Yeah. But also she feels nothing so passionately that maybe we need new language for feeling versus not feeling, and that you want to rely on you either know what an ice cream cone feels like, or you're not empathic. I mean,
are we talking about My Girl? What is this?
A chorus line.
Oh, chorus.
Yeah.
Because I on stage, I was with Greg Proops on stage last night, and I said a line in a dumb game, and I said, who am I anyway? Am I my resume? And Greg said, am I a picture of a person I don't know? And there's one girl in the balcony who was like, wow! Because she was probably just in a chorus line or loves that movie. But like those songs are really dark and really great.
So have you, Drew, felt throughout your life intellectually rattling and emotionally numb? Does that lead to insomnia? Does that lead to a connection with people who are, as you say, joining you across the deep dark? Like, talk about your relationship with the universe. Do you think people are bad? Do you hate everybody? Do you not, like, do you look at them as like, I won't give you options, you just go?
But I think it's like my interest in doing the podcast came out of this like miserable thing, like when I couldn't sleep and I'd be thinking about going to school, and like I went to Catholic school, and like me and the nuns did not get along. Like they just fucking hated me. And like I think I had like undiagnosed dyslexia or something. And they were like, oh no, you're just lazy. Like they're like, you have the ability to do the work, but you choose not to. So then I like internalize that, whatever. It's like, okay, so it's you versus me. Like, all right, so now I know the kind of deal, like a little bit of a dichotomy, because I was like a kid, like these authority figures are out to get me, and I'm this kid. And I think that just led to me trying to figure stuff out at night. Like I'd be lying there thinking, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Like, and I think I still do that. It's like, well, am I going to be a good guest when I go on Harmontown? What am I going to do? Like, and there's like, oh, let me read some more about Dan. There's a part of, like, there's another thing that's like, oh, whoa, man, calm down. Like, and I don't have like total access to that except when I do the podcast. But it's like, oh yeah, those nuns, like some super mellow part. Like, dude, I might have to recruit you as like my, like, sit on my shoulder or something, like to be like, oh, you know what, like, and I think it's like the truth, like in the song too, is like that she's like in this situation, like she gets into this performing arts school, and it's like, oh, this is it. I'm going to make it now. Like, and this is like this teacher, Mr. Karp, who's a dick. Spoiler, and he teaches the improv class or whatever where she's supposed to feel all this stuff.
I'm going to make it now, not to interject, but because the idea of getting accepted to a school, that comes from a place of, oh, well, these people need to be pleased. And once they're pleased, you're fucking set. You're going to Hogwarts, you're going to be a wizard.
Yeah.
But then no, so anyways.
Yeah, like, and I don't know, like I was also trying to get inside your head. Like I was like, oh man, like once I started reading about how you think about story and stuff, I don't know, those things just feel like puzzles a little bit or something. Like, and it just draws me, and like stuff that's like, okay, this isn't just about an entertaining story, like just like not being able to sleep or like that scientists don't understand sleep. It's like just like Rick and Morty. Like there's way more there than you see on the first one or two watch throughs. It's like there's something going on below the surface, and that's what people connect to. And like in this song, what I connected to is like, she's like, shit, I don't care that he died. Like I feel I'm in full acceptance that I feel nothing. I don't know.
Also, but the day that you say, I don't care that this person died, well, that can be an incredibly fucking...
But Mr. Karp, like the teacher in that, is telling all these students, pretend that you're cold, and pretend that you're hot, and pretend that you're this. And everyone else is doing it, and she thinks they're all lying. She's like, I think it's all bullshit. And when this guy that was a professional bullshit artist dies, like, it doesn't mean anything to her. Like her identity had nothing to do with these weird tasks that she was asked to do.
Yeah, I took it as like empowering too. Like she didn't do this, but like that she slammed the coffin and she's like, now I'm an actor. Karp, fuck off. Like,
well, I mean, if you think the job of acting is a psychotic job, whether it's an audience or cameras that are staring at you, you have to be equally conscious of the fact that you are faking something as you are. Because if you really believed you were an ice cream cone, you'd turn your back to the audience for the entire show. You wouldn't hit your marks. You wouldn't remember your ice cream lines. There's all kinds of reasons why you also simultaneously, in order to be so immersed in all this stuff, you also have to be so hyper conscious of like where your head is, or even more so with the cameras instead of the audience. But that's the interesting thing I think about the lyrics of that song is that it seems like it's a writer exploring actually just two different acting schools and how they kind of crisscross their dichotomies, like can bisect each other to the point where you go, oh yeah, okay, so you have to pick one that you're happy with, because hers turns out to be, you know what? I'm the person that's capable of forgetting what the fuck anybody thinks. And that could lead to really good acting, because my calluses, my barrier that I have around myself, whether I like it or not, like will allow me to plow through a terrible showing of Speed the Plow, even though there's three people in the audience and a person from I don't know why I'm going into her biography of like a weird timeline, but I'm just saying like there's different kinds of good actors, and she's confident at the time of singing that song. And what?
Now, Drew, you said you had trouble sleeping yourself, right? You have anxiety and that keeps you up.
Yeah.
Does you doing this podcast kind of busy up your day and occupy a part of your mind that allows you to rest, or do you still go to sleep with the same trouble that you're trying to assuage in other people?
I think it makes me more aware, and I think like the thing about the podcast is like, oh, that I'm not the only person like suffering from that. Like so. I mean, that's like the main message I want to get in the across in the podcast is like, okay, I'm not going to come to your house and read you a story or
to steal your tarp.
Like, yeah, wrap myself in the tarp, and but like that, like not being able to sleep sucks. And like, since I can relate to that, like I may not understand what other people are going through that can't sleep, but
you've had people say to you that this really helps.
Yeah,
that must feel great.
I'm dead inside though, so it's kind of.
Oh, you feel nothing. You feel nothing.